spitting 100% certified grade A hoopla. It is your main man return, and now one of my good friends here in the YouTube RPG Brigade, brother, Saudi Lindsay 4 asked me, he says, how to introduce characters in an ongoing campaign. He video requested this a while ago, and this is at the bottom of the list here, so I've just seen it. Now, this might surprise some of you out there, and this I've never talked about this before. People get all pissed off. How I introduce your ass? Well, you start in the beginning. How about that? Yeah, I don't let you just be coming in all ridiculous. The things, to me, experience is what you've earned. You have earned that. That is yours. It is not a freebie. You either show up. You don't show up in my games, you don't get experience. If you're not there, you didn't get experience. Your ass just doesn't learn that quick. How about that? You should learn quicker to be there. And for me, I don't care. I don't care what reason you didn't come. It's not a point about that. The fact is you weren't there. If you laying in the bed dying, you know, if an alien crash landed into your house and abducted you, that doesn't really matter. You weren't there. You don't get experience points. Experience points are also something that's very much earned. You could show up and you get a lot less than someone else. I mean, a lot less. And that's all good. That's all good with me because it's earned. You earned that. To me, that's sort of like a payment. I mean, the game itself is a payment, obviously, but that's also a payment. It's like a thank you. That's what XPR. It's like, I thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate you a lot, and you a lot less. So, still, that you made a contribution, right? So you deserve something. But if that character hasn't been there, hasn't been part of the game, he hasn't made a contribution. So in my effort, in my idea, and in the way I was raised on RPGs, started at the beginning, and I've challenged a lot of the ideas I was brought in with and abandoned so many of them. That one I've always kept. I've always thought that was a good idea. I think it's confusing often to people, particularly if they're new. If you bring them in and they have all these extra powers, stuff like, oh, what does this one do? And, oh, I forgot about that. And you always get that, oh, well, yeah, I forgot that. Well, they forgot because you gave them too many. How are they supposed to know about 19 different powers at first level? I saw one time my buddy Joe Hoff. Yeah, I'm going to send this video to your ass, too. My buddy Joe Hoff. Oh, Joe Hoff. Look at your ass right now. Look at you over there talking about Tesla and all your bitch assness. His girlfriend at the time, baby Jessica. Oh, baby Jessica. She was playing in some game, showed me. She playing, get this, in this AD&D second edition. The most goddamn stupid thing you could ever play as a new player. A wizard / cleric with, it was like 17th/17th level, or whatever the breakdown came to. Like, my eyes just popped. She's like, oh, look at all these spells. And she was sitting there writing them down in a book. I'm just like, are you fucking kidding me? And it wasn't Joe wasn't running the game. Somebody else was running it. I don't remember who, but I wasn't going to get involved. So that'll tell you it was booty right off the bat. She was somehow going to try to play like 30-some combined levels or more of character. Not even really understanding the system. And you're going to have 912 spells that you could cast. That's a problem. That's a gigantic problem. And that's definitely not something I've run into with characters, because when you start at first level, I mean, maybe, man, if I'm in such a nice mood, I might let you start at like second level. And that's like first level / first level. Just because first level / first level makes sense to me. You want to play a second level ranger? I think not, but you can play maybe a first level ranger / first level fighter. And that's like if everyone else is like 9th level or higher. So characters never have like the same level. Like one person might be like 13th level, or someone else is like 9th, and someone else is, first level. That's just fine. That's where you came in. That's what you got. You got what you got. That doesn't mean like, and if you do come at first level, I might hook you up a little bit. Like, all right, well, let me actually give you one to slide. You can like this masterwork sword, and even in my games, man, a masterwork sword can kind of be a big deal because you might be running around with a +1 weapon at 14th level, and I'm not kidding. I mean, it might have like 1 or 2 little extra abilities on it as well, but you're not going to be running around Monty Hall style. People say, oh, well, what about that +1 sword? How do you keep that relevant? You don't ever give them a +2 one. And they think that +1 sword is the joint. They're like, oh, I got a +1 sword of flame tongue. This is awesome. There are no +3 swords in this world, so I guess +1 of flame tongue is dominant. And always you get a little extra ability. That makes it cool. Like +1 isn't really cool. Those extra extra damage, extra hit. Okay, it's poor balance. But you can't. There's not really anything you can do with that. Like flame tongue. Oh, I have my sword on fire. That's awesome. I mean, you can't not hope but sell for that. If you don't, you'll be set ablaze. So, how about that? Now, when you have the situation there where you're bringing that new character, and I'm sorry, it was really late at night, and I completely forgot what I was going to say. I was like, oh. And for all of those of you at home, they go, just don't say shit. Just sit there and think. See, maybe it was cool under pressure. That's how I would do it here. Now, before I forget again, because again, it's quite late. I've been up for a long time. Bringing a new character in the game. So I do it right there. First of all, boom, you're at the beginning. And that really wasn't the tone of your questions. I understand that. But how do you insinuate them? How do you make sense? Well, if you watch a television show, look at this thing on HBO and Showtime. I'm going to reference those because that's mostly what I watch. I watch something a little bit here and there of other things. But they bring characters in, right? They always have ways of bringing different characters in. There's so many of them. It could be all kinds of different games, right? It could be a game where you work for someone, and that could be in a D&D setting, that could be in a modern day setting, that could be in a futuristic setting. Being employed is very easy. So the employer could essentially just bring another person in, whether they're like, okay, you take him with you for your adventure. Well, that's a real standard of stock and boring. We've seen that a million times. But it could be more interesting, if your game revolves around a police force. And it's like, well, this is a new cop that's been hired. It's like, well, that's very easy to believe. Of course you can believe that. As a new cop, now you already have that fraternity, right, that brotherhood, and you're going to bring him in. You're going to let him be part of the hoopla. So it's just rolling smooth with that. And the cop was part of the situation there. Now, with other groups, I'm trying to come up with a number of different examples. The character, right? So you could join a favorite group. You could join the group by having a piece of information. In fact, a game master could set things up and direct you all the way around to, you're all on this quest to find this information. And the information turns out to be a person. Or we're on a quest to find a person. And it really looks like NPC. It's like, well, that's their NPC. And it's not. It's actually the PC. You brought them all the way around to bring the PC. And I've done this, and I've flipped this one on players too before. I'll have one player play a false character. I'm like, look, you go there for the first 2 game sessions, and you play this character. Now, he's going to die, or we're going to write him out, or whatever, probably die. Real dramatic fashion. Like, oh, it's your character get killed, but I wasn't even a real character. We had the other real character over here. And now, to compensate to my mind, you have to run some solo sessions for them. Their new character comes in might even be more powerful. Because, they're playing the thing over here, they're helping me, and we got this other cool character working around, and that can really jack the player's jaw, because they don't expect this person's character to die, and they don't then when this other thing that they were already looking for, right? They knew they were looking for, so they couldn't be one of the player characters because they're all here, but it is. So you want to cover that, and you could take that one part I said out, and it could just be the new player. He comes in, he's special. Now, one thing I will do is, although I start people out with like whatever the character creation style I use, and sometimes my character creation style can be very liberal in the beginning, but it's gonna be the same style. However, I might hook them up with something a little bit more baller, and I'm very likely to try to give them something that's important, make their character special in a way where immediately either they are completely attached to one of these overarching plot lines that you've already established in the game that the players have gotten with. They're attached to it. It's like, well, we're doing this deal where we're in Forgotten Realms, I did this deal with Ball Spawn, because of course everyone loved that. It was a great angle they did for Forgotten Realms. And so I had some new players come in, so I made both of them Ball Spawn. Neither one of them knew it, but I made them both a little odd. And that gave me ability, right? So I didn't ECL them, but that gave me ability to give them a little extra power boost. But they're still first level. They're still coming in, and they're earning that. And then they get these additional powers that slowly start unfolding at my leisure. and that's interesting to them. Like, what is that? And in their backgrounds, I started designing certain things and the preludes that I ran for them, so that they could really have some more stuff to role play with, and that gave them a portion of interest to the game. It connected them immediately to the plot, and when the players start figuring things out, that makes them more interesting. So it makes they can invest in them. Now, when you're bringing a character in, another really easy way to do it is you can have the players rescue someone. They could be rescued in a dungeon, or from rogues, or from a pirate ship, like on an island or something. You know, they're like, well, you're not one of these guys, and you are clearly in a bad strait, so I guess you could come with us. They might have a certain set of skills, and the players can kind of pick up on that, and the players see they're hard times. They don't have any money. You have nothing in a fantasy world of disease and gruel. You can't even have gruel, so you get disease. And you're like, well, I guess I'll go along with these people. Now, these are some of the many ways that you can bring players in. A player could have a letter of introduction. You could do sort of like a Lovecraft kind of deal. You get this like letter of introduction, and you were referred over. You're on a back burner. You've actually already been part of it. You could have the players be investigating something, right? And then another group is investigating it on another side they don't even know about, and that person could be part of that. And then maybe the hit that maybe kills off some players, and maybe killed off some other people, and then the two of them find out about each other, and the layer of the star spawn or something. They're like, oh, well, back on the surface, you know, things get back together. You could be someone's relative or friend. You'd be like, well, actually, yes. And don't ever be like, oh, well, I was my other character's brother, and I'm here to avenge you. Oh, dude, that's butt. You know, that's whack. Don't do that. Do this. Now, if you have another player in the group, right, bring it in as his deal. My buddy Wayne, lawful, LL the Inquisitor, he takes this character. His wife was running Call of Cthulhu, and only my character went from the beginning. She ran, what was it, the Mask of Verlitzap. I went from the beginning to the end, entire way. I turned into a depraved cultist by the end, but the entire way, a big shocker, right? But I never lost a character. He was on his third character at the end, his third character, and so you can see she wasn't playing any kind of favorites. There was no game master friend there. He was, you know, this guy Jack. Now his third character, he said, "Oh, well, I got a good idea. How about I'm gonna be your brother?" And I said, "Okay, we can work with that." And he says, "Oh yeah, because my character was like an Irish immigrant, and then he had just his brother just had immigrated over. So, or maybe I think we may have even gone over to Ireland, and or no, he was in England, and it got like the fun level just shot up. And the game was very fun, but the fun level just shot up dramatically when he did that. That was awesome because we had all this synergy as brothers, and it was a real good time. So bringing a character in like that, you know, can be real interesting to bring in the family member of someone or the friend of one of the other characters, and that can really add, and that's believable. It's like, well, of course your brother, who now is a little bit older, he was like a kid right when you started. Now you're getting to be an older man, but he's like a bucket 17-year-old, and he's trying to get his adventure on too. Hell, he sees you, he hears the stories, he wants to tell those same stories as you do. He wants to prove his manhood. He's 17 and full of life, so of course he wants to come out and join. And that makes sense, right? Again, you know, we're talking about a beginning level character, who's beginning level, but at the same time, then he's figured in. It makes sense that your character would take care of his little brother. I mean, you know, you'd be kind of a piece of trash not to. So if you bring him in, right, then it gives that character ability to kind of take him under the wing and give him more. You'd be like, oh, actually, I got a magic dagger. You know, it's pretty booty. Like if you're like, oh, you just joined us here, take a magic dagger. We wouldn't do that, man. Nobody would do that. People aren't that nice. No, but if it's your brother, you're like, oh, actually, magic dagger. Let me just slide that to you. You know, here's some gold booty. You know, take that. You know, go get you a mug of grog. That will really bring a lot more interest there to the scene. It can give a lot of cohesion. You can bring in other sort of background NPCs. The character could even be someone who's like maybe they like break a cult up, right? They were in there, they busted up a cult, and he was like a cultist, but he was like a young cultist, and he didn't really know what he was doing. And he sees them, and like, you know, the light up halo or whatever. He's like, oh, but now I know, and I was wrong. I have to come with you. I have to earn back myself, my spot in life, and that's boom. So there's a redemption story. So he has an angle with the players, and he wants to redeem us. So that he's already given you information. But the number one thing when you're introducing a character into a game, they have to give you as a game master stuff to work with, so they're not just sitting there in the background. After all, remember, power level fighting, that stuff isn't really all that important. What's important is getting a spotlight. And once the characters already have all these established angles, you got to give them stuff. They got to learn their own stuff. They got to get their own NPCs that they have relationships with. Whatever the NPC is that maybe certain NPCs the party have relationships with. That could be an individual that NPC says, oh, we'll bring them in and use them and help them, or they'll help you, or oh, I owe you a debt. That's a great way to do it. Like NPC's like, well, it's like, oh, I owe you a debt, and here, take this slave. I know, you know, he just jacked it, right? So you've given them the this player character, and like, oh, well, here is his life. You know, he was a slave. Have him, or oh, well, this is one of my trusted people. Take them with you, and then of course, then that they have a whole different relationship with that NPC, and they can kind of be covert and come back to NPC and tell them the party and give out more information. So it could be very interesting. They're the kind of way, because you could show that NPC that's like one way, then you could show them a completely different way, which is really interesting to be able to do. Particularly like if you have a character that falls from grace, right, and you have like these, oh, the evil cultists, why are they doing that? And then like they end up joining the cult, and they're like, oh, I see why they're doing that now, and like it shows them as regular people. I mean, they might be evil and so forth, but they're still like, you know, kind of normal people too, man. They like TV and stuff. It's like, I like evil and Jeopardy, you know. I like to read the newspaper and cast glooming omens upon your mind. So there's a lot of different ways that you can bring a character in. Let's see, I'm thinking of something else off the top of my head here. You can really make a character mean a lot to the story that you're doing. The character could be someone who, like in a D&D game, had been drained out, or like in a Star Wars game, like that failed Jedi, and they're encountered on a particularly odd place, you know, and they want to hook up with a party. Or the absolute easiest way is divine. Like, okay, you have divine gods working their game through mysterious ways, right? And you have a follower of Tyr, and then this other character is also going to make a follower of Tyr. So the god has directed them through visions. It's like, oh, I see your face in my visions, and I have come to help you and pledge my sword to your cause. Well, they can be like, oh, so I ain't trying to have no sword to my cause. Like, oh, a sword to my cause? Wonderful. And then all of a sudden they're invested in that guy. That's their dude right there. Hell, they probably shoot right up the top of that PC's mind. They're like, yeah, I mean, the rest of y'all is tight, but I mean, this dude plays a sword with me. I got to take care of him. Damn, you know. So it can bring in that way, and then you build it up. You understand? If you don't like it that way, though, of course, you can bring in those high-level characters, right? You could bring in a character who is really particularly powerful, that perhaps you set a scenario up, right, where maybe the PCs come in and they see like some big like hill giant or something being tormented by a big group of people. Perhaps like you set up with something else that they hate. Give them something they hate. Like, oh, our players, they hate gnolls. God, they hate gnolls. So it's like, okay, there's like 16 gnolls around this hill giant with these really long hunting pikes, and they're just and like getting at him like it was a gaggle of alacos. And this gaggle of alacos is just needling this hill giant. He's like, oh. And it just, you kind of role play him, but just like a little bit like he's Sloth from the Goonies or something. And then they come in and wreck shop, right? If you know your players, like I could very easily line up a lot of players. Like they would be all about killing them gnolls and like trying to help that hill giant if they hated gnolls. I mean, they could go the other way. If they hated hill giants, they're like, yeah, they try to come in and make a stable within 16 knolls. So you put the sympathy right on the hill giant. Now he's beat up, kind of looking at him. You kind of like do that, and then like you could say they're like, oh, well, I ask him this, and they're like, well, does he say anything? And then boom, that's when the other player hits him. But they don't even know that's his character, right? And he's like, he comes in with a voice, and they're like, oh, that's your character. Oh, that's tight. We was already gonna mess with this hill giant anyway. So you got this baller hill giant character. Oh, okay, it's gonna be a scoop slam match, I believe. A $10,000 bounty, John Studd style. So after the barbarian tries to body slam a couple times, you can bring that hill giant in, and that could be the guy's new player. You could set the scenario up. I mean, there's so many ways to bring them in. Characters in games, I think people get lazy sometimes, where they're just like, well, yeah, you just saw an ad for to hire another adventurer, and here's a big problem with that. If they're like, oh, that worked, let's hire some more. And like, oh, wait a minute, no, there ain't no more PCs coming. No, that worked. We're gonna start hiring some more people. Oh, motherfucker! And then they go want like 18 NPCs to go in the dungeon. They go, oh, I'm sure I'll just go in the dungeon. Oh, come on, dude. You were supposed to do that, I mean, if that's what you're doing, like, just saying the real basic dungeon crawl style, the hiring board kind of nonsense you might see in a high school game. That's, I think, very, very important when you're looking at how to bring characters in. That you give them an interesting way where you take whatever backgrounds they have, right, and then you tie them to the story, and you make sure their background ties in to plots that are relevant to the story. You should have multiple plots going, right? But they could tie into a plot in any way. And I try to give you some probably bad examples. It's like almost 2 a.m. But this is the key right here. This is the whole deal. Make them relevant to the story. If they are relevant to the story, they're going to fit. They're going to make sense. Whatever your story is, give them their own backstory that comes in and fits one of the stories you have going on, in a way where the players are going to believe it, where they're going to believe it, where they're going to have fun, where they have background stuff, where they have a way you can put them on a pedestal, where you can spotlight them. And when you bring them in, usually when I bring somebody in, man, I make the session about them. I run them hot, and they're like, and even if it was like first level, they just got so much face time. We established their character, which is what I'd want to do if I was running a television show. But I'll bring this new character in, I got to make them cool. I can't just like push them off to the side and do nothing with them. And also, if it's a new player, it lets me gauge that role-playing ability and intent, and it lets me see what I can do with them, what I can work with. So, there, hopefully, Lindsay, that answers your question. Until next time, I have been and will always remain your main man. Let me know in the box below what you think are great ways that we can help Lizzie have some more ideas on how to introduce characters on the ongoing campaigns.